Hi, and welcome to Chrysalis on the Couch. We're going to talk about the new freedom today. So my name is Jude Mason and I'm a tutor with Chrysalis. I also have my own private practice. So I'm welcoming today Darryl McCullagh, who's also a tutor with Chrysalis, and Dean Campey, who's one of our ex-students. So I'm going to go over to Darryl and Dean first so that they can introduce themselves and tell you a little bit about themselves and what they do. Do you want to start us off, Darryl?
Hi everybody, my name's Darryl. I'm a therapist here in Northern Ireland, although I do cover the whole of the island of Ireland. I've been a qualified psychotherapist for nearly 21 years now, but I'm well known in Ireland as a hypnotist, as I've been a hypnotist since I was 14 years old and I'm now 47. So I've got a bit of a background in that there. I've been a Chrysalis tutor now 4.5 years, and as I say, I teach here in Belfast primarily. And that's about all for me.
Okay, Dean.
Hi, my name's thank you. Yeah, my name's Dean Campey. I am a ex-student of Chrysalis. I qualified at the beginning of this year as a psychotherapist. I also did the hypnotherapy course as well, and I qualified straight out into lockdown. Unfortunately, I actually work full-time for Turning Point for a charity. I have a full-time job as well. But I was hoping to qualify out and then start seeing some private clients just slowly. So I've got a lot less experience than Darryl, obviously. So I'm fairly new to this, and as I say, I've just qualified out into lockdown. So yeah, so that's me.
So we've got some kind of probably quite different experiences, haven't we? I mean, in terms of what we do, probably quite similar to Darryl, but obviously on other sides of, other sides of the pond, as it were. So, in terms of like, for me, we've been talking earlier and saying actually lockdown for all of us has been quite busy. Certainly has for me. So what about you, Darryl? What's the new normal look like for you? Does it feel considerably different?
For me personally, as I was saying earlier on, my business went online about a year and a half ago, and it was purely from a selfish point of view, in that I wanted me to spend more time with my family.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
I have a lot of children here. I also noticed that my clientele were getting younger, and they also wanted to do therapy later in the evenings. They had schoolwork and stuff, because I would work primarily with adolescents at the minute. So they'd be at school during the day, so evenings worked out better. Weekends worked even better for them. So it meant I had the day with the kids and stuff like that. When lockdown came along, I had that initial panic like everybody else. Here in Northern Ireland, we kind of followed the guidelines of Ireland as well as the UK. So we kind of went into temporary lockdown about a week before the UK did, because Ireland went into full lockdown 3 weeks before everybody else did. And we have a lot of businesses up here that work from a British point of view and also from an Irish point of view. So I initially had that panic and thought, my background's learning disability and mental health, and I thought I'd maybe have to go back to kind of full-time work and stuff and look at childcare and stuff. But no, I actually got busy here in Northern Ireland. As I said before, mental health is a big subject here in Northern Ireland. About 10, 15 years ago, my clientele would have been in their 30s and 40s. I now primarily work with people between 13 and 17. The most recognised ailment would be PTSD for the young people. And we have one of the highest suicide rates, which is quite scary at present. And this could be a combination of many things. It's easier now to get likes of alcohol and drugs here in Northern Ireland, whereas before it would have unfortunately been controlled by the likes of the paramilitaries. Now that it's actually legal, it's actually easier to get legal as from an alcohol point of view, not necessarily drugs. So we do have a lot of issues regarding underage drinking and alcohol abuse and drug abuse here in Northern Ireland. And as I say, we've got a high suicide rate. Since lockdown, because the statutory organisations didn't have the framework in place to go online, the likes of individual therapists like myself actually became busier.
Yeah, I found it busy actually. you know, lots of people have been saying that it was kind of, you know, it was all very low key during lockdown, and it was in some ways, but actually in terms of work, I felt things ramped up a bit. But what I'm finding as well is that actually now, when we've got this kind of new normal, this new freedom, actually that's causing as much anxiety as lockdown caused. And a lot of people, some of my clients who are shielding are now feeling really, really anxious, and they've been out of kind of almost like out of society for a few months, and now they're sort of re-emerging, and they're having to sort of navigate a whole new set of rules and regulations and a whole new kind of set of feelings that comes with that, and they're scared. Some people are just, I think, we're really scared now. You know, and
yeah, no, I agree with that, and I think I'm slightly different because I'm in a situation where I'm looking at going on, you know, sort of moving online, and I think there are, as I said earlier, there's probably quite a few therapists who were used to working face to face in their own offices, etc., who have found themselves sitting at home in a room that they are now having to change into an office in somewhere or other, and probably upgrade their IT skills, maybe their computer or whatever it might be. And so I think there's a lot of anxieties all around. I think there's probably a lot of anxieties for us as therapists, if we're going to be honest. And I think we're trying to manage that anxiety through all the systems that we've got through our supervisor or whatever it might be. And we're trying to work with people who are anxious. So the whole situation feels quite complex. And I've got to say, I mean, I've had no idea how to set up a website, you know, market yourself, etc., at all. So over the last sort of 3 months, I've had to try and learn that and adapt this room into an office, try and understand how Zoom works. So, because at the end of the day, as therapists, we are only people, and with all our, you know, frailties that go along with that. And so, yeah, it's been an interesting but slightly anxious journey to get from being qualified in January to here. And so the future for me, I mean, for Darryl and yourself, it feels a little bit more fixed, and you're maybe in a slightly a better place in terms of understanding where you are. But for me, it still all feels slightly in flux and a bit of a challenge, to be honest.
Absolutely. I mean, I think, you know, from what Darryl was saying, he was working as an online therapist before, but when lockdown hit, I think I'd had a couple of online clients before, and that was people who specifically asked for online, but, you know, I kind of made it clear I don't normally work like this, so it wasn't something that I felt sort of overly comfortable with. But a huge challenge. I agree, Dean. You know, even for quite an experienced therapist, but even for an experienced therapist to suddenly think, okay, I've got to navigate Zoom now, and I've got to, and you know, with Chrysalis as well, we've been doing webinars, and I've been quite heavily involved in that, but I'd never done a webinar before. So you're absolutely right. Sometimes we're trying to make everything right for our clients, aren't we? But sometimes we do have to sort of sit back and think, actually, I'm a human being as well, and I've got to kind of try to navigate my own anxieties and stresses here as well. But what I
sorry, I was just going to say, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, but I've found the whole thing very, very positive.
That is exactly what I was going to say, actually.
It's been quite an exciting thing for me, because it's not something I would ever have. I would have just got my office and seen my clients, etc. But this has been quite an interesting, and I've learned so much in 3 months about my own computer and how it works.
Absolutely, and actually it kind of gives you these ideas, doesn't it, for new ways of working in the future. So now, I don't know about you two, but I'm just starting to see a couple of clients face to face with lots of you know, with a risk assessment and lots of procedures in place. But actually, some of the clients that said, oh, I'm not sure about Zoom, I'll give it a go, actually don't want to go back face to face, because they're kind of finding the value of, I can get out of bed, you know, I don't have to go out anywhere if I don't want to. I don't have to feel like I have to kind of dress for the outside, you know. And they're sort of finding that even though they really didn't want to try this, they are actually loving it.
I personally find with Zoom, there's something that I wouldn't have seen on a face. I know I crave badly face-to-face work. I crave badly face-to-face teaching again. I can't wait.
Yeah, it's different, isn't it? Yeah, I agree.
Because online can be very, very lonely. It can. But one thing I have noticed by doing online therapy, and for me, big, is that we really do strip back the person. You know, as you said before, when a client, I always work with clients in their own home, but even then, the house would have been cleaned. They would have had the makeup on, even teenage, they would have had the makeup on, and they would have been at the lowest of the low, and yet you went into this false representation of how they really felt. Whereas with Zoom, they kind of forget about those wee bits, and they might not have their makeup on, and the house might be a bit of disarray behind them. They might even be in their jammies. And for me personally, that's great, you know, and to turn to put a positive spin on it, that's great, because, you know, as you know yourself, Judith, it is we have to get that wee golden nugget of information from it, so we can find out what's wrong, then go on to support them and make them feel better. But if they're all dolled up, or they've put on this false front, we have to strip that away, and that takes time.
Yeah, it's a bit like a kind of shell, isn't it? A front that you have to kind of peel back. Yeah, that's a really good point, actually.
But they generally, the first one, the consultation, yes, they'll be all there, and then they kind of go, you know what, that was hard work. You know, and then the next time, and you'll know that you're winning, because you'll start getting angles like this when they really don't want to show their face, and, you know, or you're looking out a window and you're kind of going, right, bring the camera towards you, you know, and you're drawing them into the camera. But I've had clients who I've met face to face. The lockdown, met them through the Zoom or one of the secure platforms, and then I've said, look, I've got face to face up and running. Would you like to meet again? No.
Yeah, that's what I'm finding.
I'm safe in this wee bubble. I'm safe in this wee bubble, you know.
Yeah.
And again, for me, I see a better person. Maybe I'll never say that. I see more. They don't have to think about their body language any longer and how they sit, because they've probably read the same books that we have all read. Yeah. You know, and forget about those sort of things, and you're able to sit back and go, yep, this is the person I need to see.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? The kind of different dynamics from online to face to face. I must admit, I saw my first face to face client. It's only about a week ago now, and it felt a bit strange, actually. It felt a bit different, but I'm quite enjoying now the mix, actually. I'm quite enjoying the mix of a few people coming back and still doing online, and I've got all these ideas that, you know, I could be going away, you know, and working from, I don't, you know, I could go, you know, take a sort of working holiday somewhere and work somewhere different, and I can still work, which I'd never considered before. So it suddenly opens up some new sort of working patterns and new ideas for yourself, doesn't it?
I think really? Would be really annoyed if you're sitting on the beach in Greece. You know, my clients know that it's, and I'm in Northern Ireland here, you know, if it isn't raining, I'm not in Northern Ireland. It's simple as that. You know, our general skin tone is blue. You know, if I'm sitting on a beach, bright red, my clients are as jealous as anything. But yes, the new norm is that, you know, we now have mobile therapy. You know, it's not a case of we go to a client or they come to us. You know, we could be anywhere in the world. It does bring up questions, you know, are we going to be turning into a 24/7 therapy service? Yeah. Because we do have this ability literally to just roll out of bed.
To do it. Yeah.
Roll out of bed straight in front of a camera, hair sticking up, and providing therapy. But again, that comes down to personal policies and your own working boundaries. But
yeah, definitely.
I find it really interesting.
Yeah. So Dean, what you were talking about, you do several different things, don't you? And you work in prisons. Is that right as well? Do you want to tell us a little bit about that and how the kind of new freedom or the new normal has impacted on those kind of things?
Yeah, well, I work for Turning Point, which is a charity, and yeah, I was working in prisons, probation offices, women's centres, wherever, all over Yorkshire and sort of North Lincolnshire, and shutdown just stopped all of that, and so went from seeing clients face to face or whatever our working day was to everything was over the phone.
Yeah.
Which was, so I was at home all the time, and then we're just slowly going back out into society again, but that's got a lot of restrictions, and so yeah, that's been really, really strange. An interesting thing I was just thinking about was for you guys especially is you're going to be thinking about different ways of teaching in the future. Teaching your Chrysalis courses, because if this does become the new kind of normal, then one of the things that I found in the 3 years that I was training with Chrysalis was it was about the relationship, and people tended to feel that unless that person was sitting next to me as a live person, it's very difficult to form the relationship however you want to do that. And a lot of people I've spoken to said, oh, well, I'll refer you on to our doctor or a doctor or whatever, or we can work on over the phone, and say, oh, no, I don't want to do that. I want to see somebody face to face. And that was very, very common. And I think there is an underlying, or there was an underlying feeling that a true relationship formed had to be with two people sitting in the same room. And so that's going to be an interesting thing to work through for you guys, teaching future therapists about or even discussing that as a topic. Can a relationship be formed this way that is as effective as having somebody sitting in the room with you? And there's a whole myriad of reasons why that might be the case or might not be the case. One of the benefits I always say to people when they say, oh, no, I don't want to do it over the phone or whatever, I say, well, you don't have to go anywhere. You know, a lot of people don't like leaving the house. They've got a lot of social anxieties, etc., etc. So look, you can sit at home in your jams with a cup of tea, nice and safe, and you can talk over the phone. But even then, they're saying, no, I want to come and see somebody, and I understand that. You know, so the relationship aspect and the way that you guys are going to teach our Chrysalis students in the future about this new normal, and I think it will become a new normal.
Yeah, that's the thing. We don't know how long it's going to last, do we? I mean, at the moment, obviously, we're teaching on Zoom, and that's going all right for me, actually. That's I don't know how you feel about it, Darryl, but I found it okay. And there's, you know, the kind of technology that we have with Zoom now, like with the breakout rooms and stuff, we can observe counselling skills, can't we? And observe hypnotherapy. And you know, are you a hypnotherapy tutor then, Darryl? Oh, yeah. See,
yes, I'm year one. I mean, the word that's being bandied around at the minute, my wife is currently in university, and the word that's being bandied around here is blended learning.
Yeah.
So this kind of offline, online therapy, as you know, as you're saying, personally, and I do believe, I truthfully believe this, it's harder to form a relationship online. Certainly with my new intake back in May there, it's not that they're any worse or I'm any worse as a tutor, but I've certainly in class, because of the way I teach, and be truthful, I jump around the class around. I don't jump down a lot. If I was to do that in front of a camera, you wouldn't see me. You'd be looking at I normally have a green screen behind me, but you know, you'd be looking at the screen behind me because I'd run around the room and stuff like that. So that thing, you know, almost like calm myself down, and then because I'm calm myself down, I'm not as I don't know. Can I put it into words? I do find it slightly harder to form a relationship with my students. Clientele is different because we're looking for a problem, but with a student, we're trying to put hooks in and grab them. You know, show them how much this course means to us, so then they will then feel the same to get through the 1, 2, 3 or whatever years. So for me, like I say, I do badly miss that kind of start. You know, if we went down the route of blended learning, class 1 would have to be face to face.
Yeah, and I think what you don't have, you know, when you're face to face and you're in a room and you have a break and you all go and get a cup of tea or put the kettle on if you've got one in your room or whatever, and it's those kind of little, not teaching moments necessarily, just those, you know, when people come in and you have a word with them and they tell you about their journey or they tell you about something that's happened with, you know, one of their kids, or all those moments when, as I say, you're making you're having a biscuit or having a cup of tea. It's those moments that you kind of miss, I think, because when you're doing online teaching, it very much is online teaching. It's not like, you know, you don't have any of those random little moments. But having said that, you know, it's been a bit easier for me, I think, because I've continued with courses that I started with. So I haven't had a new intake yet. So all the courses that I've taught during this period have been with students that I already had a relationship with, which I guess makes a bit of a difference, doesn't it? But having said so, I don't think it's been as bad as some people might have kind of imagined. You know, some people say, "Oh, I really don't want to do this." Well, let's see how it goes. You know, and actually, it's been received quite well, because I think we're all kind of, I don't know, we're all pulling together, aren't we, at the moment? And you know, and that's been the great thing about this whole situation. Or one of the positives that a lot of people have kind of been, we're all in this scenario together. We've all got to make the best of it.
I mean, one of my roles within Chrysalis is a year one mentor. So I would introduce new tutors into the course and welcome them to the organisation. And it was very funny because I remember Ross speaking to me about a fortnight after I got the position, and he said, you know, I'm sure you're getting a lot of questions from the new tutors. And I was like, actually, it's the existing tutors because of IT, but it's literally just IT. You know, they can do therapy with their eyes closed, but the minute they're in front of a camera, that's the panic. And once we get past the panic, all it is a wee screen looking at you, and there's a couple of buttons to press. Everything became well. And as you said, Jude, you know, as a tutor, and as I know that, because I do talk to all the other year one tutors, it is once they got past that part of how to use Zoom, it was just second nature. They became a tutor again. But the biggest panic was, you know, what if my internet goes? Well, then your internet goes. Click back in.
Exactly.
You know, and that's happened so many times. But once I got past that, yes, it was like, you know what, this isn't as bad as we thought. You know, and you know, we got the good feedback from the students, and like I say, it's certainly getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah. I guess it's different for you though, Dean, because you weren't expecting any of this, were you? When you got your certificate and thinking, you know, right, I know where things are going now, you know.
Yeah, I think I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think we all tend to, you know, plan for our future in one way or another. And I was really excited to qualify. And I sort of had a little bit of a plan about how I was going to hopefully sort of talking about blended learning, about some blended earning, about some, you know, about blending in some private clients as well as working, etc., etc. And of course, none of that happened. And so, I've had to sort of reevaluate how I want to move forward. But having said that, I mean, like I said earlier, the whole thing's been quite exciting, and I've really enjoyed a lot of the, you know, technical aspects that I would never have done before. I would just never have done it. I would have, like I said earlier, I would have got a little office somewhere, and, you know, off we go. And but I've had to completely reevaluate that, and it's felt a little bit unusual, and I know that I've spoken to a lot of people who've had I don't know how Zoom works. I'm a bit scared of my own IT skills and computer thing, who have all, I talk to them now and they all like it as well. But interestingly, I was listening to somebody talking on the TV the other day, and they were saying, oh, well, why don't everyone just work from home all the time? You know, we've kind of really proved that we can do it. You know, businesses could. But going back to what you were just saying, you know, it's that kind of turning up for work and the chat in the corridor and the, you know, the walk back to the bus, and I want to tell somebody at work about, what I was doing yesterday or whatever. It's the little things, it's the little connectors that make the difference to our lives. Because as you were saying earlier, Darryl, I think it can be for all of us quite a lonely experience, I suppose, at home, sitting in a room, waiting for, and that's going back to relationships. It's how we work, and it's how we are as human beings. We like to build those relationships and be in contact with people. So I think the blended working, blended learning will be the future for maybe a couple of years, maybe, and we're just going to have to learn to change with it. But I'm quite excited about getting to work with some clients online now. So.
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about getting your little room. I had a new garden office built, and I was so excited about this garden office. It's really beautiful, and it was just before lockdown. It all got finished. So I was so excited about seeing my clients in this. Just had to wander to the bottom of my garden, and I got it all just how I wanted it. I got this lovely little plaque with my business name on, all very exciting. I saw 2 clients, I think, in there. That was it. So, so I've been kind of looking from my kitchen, down to the bottom of my garden. But I've started using it again now. But it feels like it's brand new. But yeah, it's just, I can't believe this. I've been wanting to do it for such a long time, and now I've done it, and we've been hit by COVID-19. But yeah, so positives. But we've been talking a lot about work, haven't we? But how does kind of this new freedom feel for you on a sort of personal level?
Well, for me, the lockdown showed me personally, again, my kids are all from, my eldest is actually just going to university very soon. She's 19. My youngest is just turned a year old. I have 6.
Wow, that's a big range.
Yeah. Don't ask me how it happened, because I'm obviously not allowed to curse here. I have a big range to say. My eldest is going to university. My youngest is only a year old. But for me, it was having the 5 boys in the house all at the same time. I didn't realise that you're only allowed to take 8 paracetamol a day, but once I got past the need for headache tablets, it's actually been quite an enjoyable experience. Before, me and my wife, our life would have revolved about getting them out to their clubs and school, and then her going off to her work as a nurse, and me going off to my work as a therapist, and trying to jiggle those all in. And then suddenly we're in a home environment. My wife continued to work. My therapy went into the evenings, as I was saying earlier on, which was just ideal because the kids are in bed and it's actually quiet here for once. Although my office is actually soundproof. But so for me, moving forward is I slightly missed that. Schools for us here in Northern Ireland started last week. It did. And now I realise how much I hate driving again. Continuously behind the wheel. So the new normal for me is I actually enjoyed, kind of on a selfish level, the lockdown a wee bit, because we only went out when we really, really needed to. But I mean, adapt and overcome is definitely the way to go forward. We'll definitely adapt and overcome. But for me, from a working point of view, my work won't change. It'll still be in the evenings and the weekends for teaching and therapy. From a personal point of view, I now still would have that time with the kids, although now they're in school. It's been good. It's shown us. It also shows you how much you really don't need things in life.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm literally 5 minutes walk away from our local supermarket. Since the lockdown, I went from having 4 chickens to nearly 20. We breed quail here. We suddenly got vegetables in the garden when I had weeds before. So things like that from my family's point of view, getting them their hands dirty and hands on was a brand. And it still
have you been growing courgette, Darryl? Because I've had courgette in so many different meals. I've even been making courgette cakes. It's like, what do I do with these courgettes? Because we've done the same. We've We've grown carrots, beans, courgettes. We've got spring onions.
I live very, very close
You
to
know.
the Irish Sea here. I'm literally a stone's throw away from the Irish Sea. So anything I grow is already pre-salted. So unfortunately, things that are water-based, like courgettes and cucumbers, they come out as if they've been seasoned already. So we've had to go for the more hardy stuff. I mean, we're Irish, so it's potatoes.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah, of course it is. Yeah. My problem is I tend to sort of grow vegetables that I'm not even that keen on myself. So, you know, I've got all these beans. I don't like beans. I've got all these courgettes. I'm so sick of them now. So, but yeah, it's kind of taught us to do different things, hasn't it?
Yeah.
We're always, it's like the good life, isn't it?
That's a really good analogy, actually. I think that's really true, because a lot of people I know, a lot of friends, they're all doing that, growing tomatoes, chilies, you know, the gardens are immaculate, doing all the decorating, you know, everything's nice and tidy. But yeah, I mean, I think Darryl's right. It does. That really highlights how little we do actually need, actually. But on the other hand, I think it also highlights, going back to the fact that I think it's got to be a bit of everything. Being at home all the time's fine, but on the other hand, I sometimes, I kind of like that half an hour drive home to have a little bit of a de-stress, listen to my own records in the car, etc., etc. And I think those kind of things, I mean, I can do that here, but it's just having a little bit of a blend of everything. And I think that's the same with growing your vegetables and everything else. It's a little bit of everything. A little bit of everything.
And a little bit less courgettes, I think.
That's a very good point about actually that de-stress coming home from work scenario. I mean, certainly where I teach here in Northern Ireland isn't particularly far from where I live. And when I go to see clients, I do so on a motorbike. So you remember that module when they talked about that kind of smart casual? I turn up in leathers and it actually works for me in a kind of weird way. But yeah, that's kind of getting on my motorbike at the end of the day, or after a particularly difficult maybe client or a subject matter. Yes, you know, it's better than any form of supervision. Certainly for that first half hour, that drive home and de-stress. You can't do that in this. I mean, when I leave this door, I'm straight into, as I say before, 5 children running around. So there is not ability to de-stress, and it's not a complaint, far from it. You know, you find different ways of doing that de-stressing and self-supervision, you do. But yes, I got to agree, that drive home, actually.
That drive home's important, isn't it? And that's what some clients have said to me, actually, that what they're finding difficult about being at home is, well, one, being with their partner all the time, because even if you're really happy with somebody, we're not used to being with our partners all the time, are we? And some people, I'm really lucky, actually. I've got a big enough house that we've got our own space to work. And you know, like you were saying, Darryl, I've got 2 kids. My son's, you know, works in Manchester, actually, but my daughter's at uni, but she's been home since lockdown. She'll be going again soon, and I've actually really enjoyed the extra time with her. So I'm going to find that really difficult. But I think that you know, for some people, working from home is not the best environment anyway. But even if it's kind of okay on a relationship level, people aren't getting that you know, that drive home or that cycle home or that separation, I think, between work and home. And you know, I've had those kind of conversations with clients about maybe putting something in at the end of their working day, maybe going for a walk. So there's a separation between, you know, their working day and their home life. Because I think, you know, I worked from home before lockdown. I used to have a therapy room in my own home, and now I've got one in the garden. So I worked from home anyway, and I find it sometimes that I'm doing work at times of the night where I shouldn't be, you know, and so I have to kind of watch myself and think, no, it's the evening now, so, you know, no more work till tomorrow. And I think people just aren't used to doing that, and people are having to put in these kind of little strategies to make the difference.
As I was
Yeah,
saying,
I think it's. I think I was saying earlier that I think one of the main things I talk to people about, apart from the presenting issues or whatever,
Mm.
is trying to instill some kind of routine into their day.
Yeah.
I find that as well. I felt busier being at home than if I was working outside,
Mm.
because it's easier to completely fill your diary every 10 minutes, because
Mm.
you feel that, well, I'm here, I'm actually at my workstation, I can
Mm.
do this. Whereas it's not like that out there. You'll see a client, you'll stop, you'll have a cup of tea, chat, go and drive somewhere else, and
Yeah.
and that's what it's like. But at home, it feels busier. But that's something that you're placing on yourself. And
Mm.
so to build in a good routine and actually say, this room that I'm in now is my office, and when I shut the door and go downstairs, I'm not at work.
Yeah.
I'm sort of sitting with my wife, I'm having my tea and
Mm.
doing things that are separate from work, is really, really important, because I found that I was just blending everything together. And like you, I was thinking, oh, I'll read that at 11 o'clock
Mm.
at night, readings, and
Yeah,
then up
exactly.
at 7 and off we go. And it really needed some structure putting in place. And it can't be just me that feels like that. It must be a lot of
Oh,
people who feel like,
numerous people, I
yeah.
think, absolutely numerous people. I mean, when I had my lovely garden office built, I did think, well, that would just be a really nice place for me to sort of escape and read a book. It's a lovely, calm environment. But actually, I don't, because although it's a lovely place to be, it's work. So for me to
Mm.
take a book down, I'll go and sit and read a book in the garden, but for me to sit and read a book in my therapy room in the garden, it doesn't feel relaxing in the same way, because that's my workplace. So,
How many? Sorry, how many people have been told in an office environment not to eat their lunch at the desk?
yeah,
A lot of people have to be told that and say, take it outside, go for a walk or
mm,
whatever, and people don't. They'll sit at the
yeah.
desk and have the sandwiches,
Mm.
and they are still in that work
And they're
environment.
still tapping on the laptop at the same time.
Of course,
Yeah.
yeah. So, yeah, and also on top of that, try
Mm,
to work through some
mm,
relaxation things with clients and stuff like that.
yeah.
Because I just felt that was a lot of anxieties can be built up talking about what, being at home with your partner all the time, being at home with the children all the
Mm,
time, not going out, etc., etc. It all sounds really obvious, but
mm,
maybe getting a slightly good routine and putting in place some good relaxation and using some hypnotherapy, etc., if you can,
mm.
has been quite important, really, for me and for
Definitely.
people I've worked with.
Having a dog helps, because you have to go out and
I'll go out.
I think, and I do think that, although I've noticed that, being around a lot more, and a lot of people have said this, other people I know who've got dogs, dogs are getting very dependent on their human beings. And my little dog, who's asleep next to me at the moment, does not like it now when I go out.
Mhm.
He gets very disgruntled. It's like, what are you doing? Where are you going?
It's funny, at the very start of the lockdown here, I live in the very centre of it, at the seafront, but at the very centre of a town here in Northern Ireland.
Yeah,
So outside the front of my house is a main road, and I didn't see a car for a fortnight. But what I did see
yeah,
was a lot of people trying to jog for the first time in their life. A
yeah,
lot of people walking who had never walked further from their front door to their car, and poor dogs being dragged up, going, "Hold on here, you walk me every Sunday for 1 hour, and now I'm being dragged every day, 3 times a day," because we were quite
yeah,
tight for our lockdown. You're only allowed 30 minutes to walk a dog and all over here. So the poor dog has been dragged
yeah,
up and down the street 6 times.
yeah.
And as we're saying, now we have maybe that's a new rule we need to go into, therapy for animals,
Mm,
the new lockdown for them. But yes, certainly, I mean,
mm,
that kind of de-stressing, and that is, we're talking about, what does the future hold for Alexa therapy, or even for our
mm,
students is, um, we have people had anxiety about the past, and now we've got anxiety about the future. Will this happen again? If it happens again, what's going to happen to X, Y, and Z?
mm.
And yet they've just done it. You know, they've just done it. It would have been interesting if we still had the generation around who went through the likes of World War One and World War Two. You know, what would their feedback been like for the lockdown? You know, it would have just been another day. You know, it's also new to us. It is. It's certainly, it brings up interesting, more questions than maybe answers at the minute, but it's certainly it's been an interesting time.
It has, hasn't it? And I think it's going to continue to be an interesting time, isn't it? Because as things loosen and we go back to normal, there's going to be local lockdowns as well. And I think that's going to be really difficult for people, because when you give people a bit more freedom and then you lock them down again, that's hard, isn't it? As say, you know, my son's in Manchester, and what I found really difficult at first was, you know, Manchester's about a 2-hour drive away from here, but we see him a lot, or we did see him a lot. And what I found really difficult was couldn't see him for a while, and then when we first did see him, I couldn't give him a hug, and I found that really, really difficult. And then as things have sort of loosened, I've been able to see him more. But then, of course, they had the lockdown in Manchester. So that felt really hard. That felt kind of like it was sort of snatched away again.
Almost like personal punishment.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've talked to people across the border, and they're saying they've gone into a local lockdown. It's like, why us?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Not, you know, I'm not the one with COVID. And it's like, yes, but it's that the kind of greater good. And it's trying to get, you know, we become during lockdown, we became, I think we became very singular and dependent on ourselves. You know, we listen to the news, we're told what to do, but we became very self-reliant on ourselves. And now that we're, as you say, becoming a wee bit looser, we go to the extremes. You know, over here, although the bars aren't allowed to serve alcohol unless you buy food, you know, you got people going in and buying one single chip or a sausage and get, you know, the drunks on the streets were crazy for the first couple of weeks until they locked that down again. So, I mean, the minute we give this wee bit of relaxation in the rules, it was pushed to the boundaries.
Yeah, exactly.
Retract it, you know, the minute we tried to retract it, as you said, you know, the same with your son being in lockdown in Manchester, the minute we try to retract it, it's almost like anarchy. How dare you lock us down again? But it's our fault. You know,
it is. Yeah, it is. Anyway, guys, it's been great talking to you.